On this program, I use the terms racism and white supremacy as synonyms. I use the same definition for both terms. The definition I use is as follows: a global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white.
And people, like I said, would say, and a lot of people still do it, white supremacy and racism. Like racism is sitting off on the side of the road, and white supremacy is in the middle of the road. Well, what is racism? If white supremacy is in the middle of the road, what is racism over there to the side of the road? What is that? They're the same thing. According to what? Neely Fuller? No. According to logic.
What does it mean to be white? Lots of those types of examples in this book where they make it specific, even going all the way back to my definition. Lots of those type of examples, I think, in this book. Another one that I think is important, I don't know how many people, when they speak to you, can you tell our listeners about the white woman flagger, Naomi Drake?
Oh, yeah. It's been a while since I've wrote the book, and yeah, she was a flagger. Yeah, in Louisiana, that was her job, was to flag anyone she thought might be trying to pass, and she would track you down if she could find. We're talking about the one-drop rule. I know all the listeners know about the one-drop rule, and that's what she was looking for. And if she found that, you would be designated as black, and that went on for quite a while. And then Louisiana decided that the one-drop rule might be a little bit too harsh. So I think this was in the 1970s, they came up with a mathematical formula to determine what constituted whether you were black or not. And it was, I think it was 1/3. If you were 1/3 African heritage, that made you black. So there were these ridiculous, unbelievable designations, and I'm looking at my notes here. Give me a second. I want to give it to you correctly so I don't mislead here. Okay, the dates were 1970 to 1983. They used a it's 1/32nd African heritage would determine and they were all part of that flagging. And that's how, I'm sure, what happened to my mother's family. And, I know my DNA. I had my DNA done twice, so I'm not very good at math. So I had my husband, because I was alive in 1970, and I said, tell me if I would have been designated black. And he said, you would have been, based on your DNA.
Context of white supremacy. All of that is so important. Number one, the arbitrariness. Like, I was waiting when you were going to give the figure, and she said, I'm trying to be exact here. I'm getting my notes. And I was waiting. At first, when she said it was 1/3, I was totally ready to accept that, because it's arbitrary. Yeah. Like, wherever we set this line at. So if it's 1/3, 1/32nd, 1/50th, right, like whatever, we're just gonna throw a dart on the wall and pick a number.
Gonna do it, yeah.
Yeah. But what I think is important is the person doing the picking, Naomi Drake. I suspect she's classified as white. I would be stunned if you told me she is a black female who is doing all of this. That's what I mean in terms of white supremacy, racism. And she probably doesn't make $1 million for that job, but that is hugely important in terms of, I just sit here with this little job and aggressively anything that looks suspicious, something that is marked a little funny on your birth certificate, or anything is scratched out, like your white credentials are colored, bam. And that we've even talked about that, white by law, where people have went to the Supreme Court. Hey, I'm really a white person. No, you're not, because we say you're not. And that's that, super important.
Yeah.
And you going to add something? Sorry.
No, that's fine. I was going to just add a little historical note, which you probably already know about, but what ushered in this one-drop rule was the 1924 Virginia state law, which was titled the Act to Preserve Racial Integrity. And that was an effort to preserve, and I'm putting this in quotes, the purity of the white race. That's what enshrined the one-drop rule. And when I give my talks, I always like to quote one of the eugenicists at the time who is defending this, and said the reason being many thousands of white Negroes were quietly and persistently passing over the line, meaning the color line.
That is a regular refrain, concerns about being fooled about who is an authentic white person, whatever that means.